You're listening to Radio Flange Goblet, and here is the news. Chaos in Birmingham, England tonight as the city is in lockdown after Jeff Lynne's favourite cello goes missing. The cello, standing at around 4 feet high and a lemon yellow with a white stripe and a small faded spaceship on the front, disappeared from the ELO frontman's caravan late Wednesday night while Mr. Lynne was just down the road drinking amaretto cocktails out of a glass boot with his good friend Elvis Costello and a man named Alan who wishes to, understandably, remain mostly anonymous. Appearing visibly shaken, weeping and waving a giant felt-embroidered robe which seemed to depict John Lennon in a wheelie bin, Jeff Lynne staggered from his caravan and alerted a nearby lady by the name of Ethel, who was just by the hedge roughly shaking a badger for arguing with her on the price of cottage cheese. Using her wind-up telephonette, Mr. Lynne was able to alert the mayor, who promptly leapt into action and placed around the walls of the city mounted police, some Maasai tribespersons with bow and arrows, and the Royal Protruding Nasal Action Squad, a highly trained team of heavily bearded gentlemen who are skilled in a martial art that involves attacking the enemy with poor karaoke renditions of long, irritating disco hits. Mr. Lynne is now manning the surveillance console in a specially erected, glowing oblong flying saucer that is floating above the city, with 360 cameras, snipers armed with very long, thin French woodwind instruments, and constantly projecting a hologram of Jeff Lynne touching Paul McCartney's bath mat on the main highways in and out of the bustling urban metropolis. The head of the Birmingham Metropolitan Constabulary has issued a statement that a reward of £35,000, a platinum copy of the Travelling Wilburys Volume 3, and a pair of used women's sunglasses that Jeff Lynne personally vouches he wore while sleeping between the years of 1986 and 1989 will be given to the finder and retriever of the cello. The cello, which has huge personal significance for the once Wilbury legendary Brummie music producer Lynne, as apparently Roy Orbison once sneezed on it in the middle of telling the ELO frontman his recipe for ratatouille. As of this news report, the cello has not been returned and the hunt continues. Lynne is soothing his nerves by playing a harmonica version of Xanadu to an insomniac Olivia Newton-John via satellite while she touches up John Travolta's shed with a much-needed new coat of pink paint. We'll take you back there as soon as there is any news. And now, while we wait on the edge of our seats, it's the latest episode of the After Movie Diner. We're really sorry, but it's all we could find at such short notice.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner with your host, John Cross.
Hello and welcome to the After Movie Diner. This week on the show, we are exceptionally happy to welcome back a longtime friend of the show, writer, producer, animal lover, zombie film aficionado, and Kiss fanatic, James Saito, who is one of the imaginative and blood-drenched brains behind the gonzo, goofy, and most definitely gory Herschell Gordon Lewis's BloodMania, which gets its streaming debut Friday, May 5th. Probably the day you're all sat around in your voluminous underpants listening to this show right now. If you are, then please stop, go rent the movie, watch it, be scared, be amused, be joyfully sickened, and be utterly delighted by the harebrained depravity of it all, and then come back here to listen to these two old farts talking about it. I'm sorry, to these two highly intellectual and well-spoken gents gabbing on about their love for all the things in Louisville. So, James, wow, that was a long intro. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Well, what can I even say that's going to in any way top that? Great intro. Thank you. I'm glad to be back, John. It's always a pleasure to be on the Diner. You're still my favorite podcast of them all out there, and it's always a pleasure.
That compliment only gets more incredible and more bizarre the more my show descends into sloppy madness. But I can't thank you enough for saying that, and as I know you have been doing, spreading the word about us and always giving us certainly the exclusives or the scoops when it comes to this fantastic film and Diabolique films in general, because I think we first spoke about this, and in fact to the dearly departed Herschell 2 years ago, I think, at least, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe it was about 2 years ago, yeah.
So as everyone knows in indie film, lots of things happen on the way to the theater or to the streaming site or to wherever they premiere. So, James, let's delve into it. Let's give a little, for people who haven't listened to the earlier show, we'll just do a bit of a recap. How did you get involved through Diabolique Films with Herschell and this particular project?
Well, I was working as a guest booker for a horror convention, and one day I received an email asking if we would like Herschell Gordon Lewis to attend. And I stood there looking at my cell phone with my hand shaking, going, it's Herschell Gordon Lewis. Yeah. I saw my first Herschell Gordon Lewis film when I was, maybe 10 years old, 1971, at a drive-in theater my uncle snuck me into. And I was a fan of his work ever since. So it was a big, well, I guess it was a very exciting email to receive. So, of course, I called the number that he gave me, and we started chatting. And we kind of hit it off. So when he arrived in town, he said to me, we should make a movie. And I kind of laughed and said, well, I've never done that. It was, well, you probably can. You're a marketer. And, well, okay. And that's the basic, that's how it gestated. And I pulled the financing together, and away we went. So it's been a long process. This movie would have been out probably 8-9 months ago. But I suspect that Mr. Lewis, he said to me one day, he said, you might want to delay the release of the film for a little while. And I didn't ask why. But in retrospect, I kind of understand now that I think maybe he knew he was ill.
Yeah.
And that, well, ever the showman and the, marketer realized that the film would probably do better after he left.
Yeah. But there's also been, I think, a respectful period of time. It's not like, Paul Herschell passed away and then the very next day, the marketing train went into motion. I think that there's been a nice, respectful period of time where, his friends, family, and his fans can mourn and revisit his older films. And now I think we're all at a point where we're hungry for his final work.
I think so. I think, we. I know it hit me very hard, and I didn't even want to think about the film for a while.
Of course, yeah, that makes sense.
And you're exactly right. I think the time is now, and. I hope that his loyal fan base and longtime fans enjoy it and flock to it.
Yeah, well, me too. And I have to say, James, and we can get into talking more specifically about the film and its different sections, because it is a horror anthology, for people who don't know, later on in the show. But I just have to say, to preface our conversation, I've watched it now a couple of times over the last few days, and I think I meant everything I said in the intro. I think it's a delight, and I think it definitely reminds everybody that while he is quite rightly known as the godfather of gore, he also, I feel, pioneers horror comedy in a way. And the thing that I loved about this movie is that it's not only true to his love of bloodletting, but definitely true to his satirical wit and silliness as well. I think it embodied all those things.
Well, thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what we were hoping for. Our goal was to make a film that was entertaining.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the first feel-good movie of the summer. let's put it that way. Well, it's not a date movie.
It depends what makes you feel good, James. Yes, I know what you mean.
I guess so. Well, it could be a date movie too, I suppose. No, we screened it publicly for the first time at the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo on this last Friday, and the response was excellent. It went through a test audience prior to that of die-hard horror fans, And as I was compiling the results from the questionnaires afterwards, there was nothing bad that they said about it. So, I always knew that we were on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's certainly for people who love Herschell stuff, and then for people who like sort of Tales from the Crypt, and then for people who like, I don't know, sort of madly satirical humor, and in the best possible sense, because I'm not a big fan of the word, but I definitely mean it in a positive, wackiness. This movie has it all. But at the same time, there are sections of it, especially, I think, kind of the second section, which I know you were involved in as a writer, and the fourth section, where I think also the fear factor and the scare factor and the horror is also played up. So while there are definitely light moments and gory moments and things that audiences can react to with gusto and laughs and shrieks and happiness and all the rest of it, there are definitely moments where you'll be hopefully clutching your seat and being like, uh-oh, what's about to happen, because I think when in a Herschell Gordon Lewis film that anything could happen, I think that adds to the terror of when someone's got a hacksaw, or someone's got a blade, or there's a monster in the house, or whatever it is. It's not going to be far away, and someone's going to be getting a limb removed or something like that. So it's it's exciting and scary and funny and all the things. And I think if it shouldn't just be limited to his hardcore fans, or even people who have a knowledge of the history of horror filmmaking. But I feel like anyone who enjoys silliness and gore and fun and being scared and roller coasters and all those things, they should love it as well. And I think that we are poised at a point in the world in general where the more movies we can watch like this, pure fun satirical escapism, then so much the better, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, given the climate of everything that's happening, a good laugh is certainly a panacea for a lot of things right now. That what you're saying means a lot to me. When a cinephile expresses those opinions to me, then I feel like I somehow stumbled upon doing something right. So it's hard for me to be objective because, you go through the post-production and you're there in the editing suite and you've seen the movie countless times. So it's kind of hard, to keep a fresh perspective. But to hear you say that really, it's really encouraging to me, John.
Yeah, well, no, as I say, I enjoyed it a lot, James, and I'll definitely be purchasing it and watching it again once it's out on Blu-ray or whatever physical media release it gets. But let's go back then. So, as I said, it's an anthology film comprised of 4 films, 4 short segments, with kind of Herschell as a host, and then also kind of the town of Louisville as sort of the setting for all these different tales of the macabre. So how did those sort of 4 individual things come together? Were they existing short film ideas that were sort of put together by Herschell and yourself, or were they specifically written for this so that there was kind of linking and thematic material?
Well, we already had the first segment, Gory Story. We had that script. Herschell had written it some time back. It got a few retouches from Bob Schultz. I sat down and basically wrote Attack of Conscience over the course of 2 days, and it changed very little from the first draft, but I pounded out one evening. And the other 2, well, let me see. We put a call out, and Justin Sane sent one in that we really enjoyed, and Bob Schultz sent us one, and it required a little bit of, rather than a female rock band, it was about a modeling agency.
Right.
great script as you'd expect from Bob Schultz, but it wasn't quite what we wanted to do. And I passed the script on to Kevin Littlelight, and he said, "Let me work on it." He goes, he says, "I think I can improve it for what you're looking for." And I said, "Well, I challenge you, sir, to do so." We were at supper. Melanie Reinbold, the director, Kevin Littlelight, Herschell, and myself. I said, "Well, I challenge you to do so, sir." And he brought me back a script within a revision within a day and a half. And I instantly fell in love with it. So, because to me, it encapsulates almost everything good about 80s horror films.
Yeah, completely.
You got you've got the killer, you've got the nudity, you've got the big-haired girls, you've got suspense, you've got, well, I'm not going to sit here and suck my own dick on this, but got some pretty good special effects. So, it's enjoyable.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Did you like the effects?
I did like the effects. I thought they were excellent in the sort of the practical aspects of them, and the mixing of the practical effects with obviously sort of either digital touch-ups and or the odd digital like head pop or something like that. I mean, in fact, the effect of the whole movie that sticks out most to me is in the second segment, the conscience one that you wrote, where the couple in question are dancing on the rooftop and she falls from the roof. When she hits the ground, that was and her head explodes. I hope you don't mind me spoiling that for the viewers of the film.
Oh, that should entice viewers.
Yeah, right, exactly. But her head explodes. It was one of the best sort of people hitting the floor shots, because it's all seemingly done in one shot. The body lands, the head pops off, and then you get some close-ups that are more practical and a real gore and goo and everything else. But like, it was just so well done. It was a nice sort of shock. As well as just a real kind of treat for effects fans. So that one really stuck out to me. The other ones that were particularly great, I mean, there's a couple of great like gut, especially in the final one, like the guts being punched out from behind. I really liked that. I thought that was really well done. There was a great one again in the second segment, the hand after it's been nailed to the barn wall, the way that you could see the nails sliding about within the hand was done really, really well. There was lots, and then of course the opening segment is probably the most sort of Herschell-esque. I mean, obviously he wrote it, but just in the fact that everything that could possibly happen to a human being in terms of injury happens to our poor luck. I mean, he's an anti-hero. He's a criminal, I guess, but sort of the protagonist of that first segment. Everything that possibly can happen, from eye gouging to hand ripping off to being hit by a steamroller to, finally being smacked by a car, and it's all fantastically good fun and very well rendered. I thought it was all excellent.
Yeah, to me, the first segment's always been a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Oh yes, it's Wile E. Coyote, but as if he really got damaged, or Tom and Jerry as if Tom really started to bleed.
Yeah, exactly. And the underlying theme in it is why he does what he does is a love story.
Right, of course. Well,
and not, and it's he's motivated by love through the whole thing, and and love. Love, I guess, shits on him.
Right. Well, what's amazing about the film, to some extent, and it's interesting you brought that up, but actually the thread throughout the film is love. I mean, there's relationships in each one, whether it's a man's desire or driven berserk with desire by women's bodies or mutilating women or whatever it is, or whether it is a struggling psychological horror violent horror in the second part, or whether it's the family that's trying to be held together in the haunted house in the third part, or whether it's this poor hapless man with a hook for a hand in the first part, sort of love and blood, I guess the two things that life is all about, right, are the themes throughout the four segments. Now that I think about it, now that you mention it.
Yeah, and the other funny thing, the Calgary Herald, one of our local newspapers, just did a story, an interview with me. And he said, isn't it ironic that the first scene that you see in the film is Herschell Gordon Lewis standing there in front of a hearse in a tuxedo?
Yeah.
And it never even dawned on me until he mentioned it. And I went, oh, okay, I guess, yeah, that never occurred to me. I think Herschell would probably get a kick out of that.
Definitely. Yes, most definitely. I mean, I only had the one conversation with the fella, but I felt like, as I'm sure you did when you first met him, you sort of become both an ardent admirer, but also a best friend almost instantly with someone like Herschell, or it certainly felt like that to me. I mean, maybe I get sucked into my interviews sometimes, but yeah, he definitely seemed very gracious and gregarious and funny and intelligent, and like I say, you just become in awe of the gentleman straight away.
Oh, definitely. And one day we were on a tour bus during that convention that he was brought in for, and we were heading out to go and see Banff, Alberta. And on the bus, he said to me, he says, can you imagine if we'd have met 30 years ago, what kind of fun we would have had? And I thought, yeah, that would have been, something else. He was, I could have spent, the sad part about it is we had a contract and a publisher interested in doing the definitive book on Herschell Gordon Lewis.
Yeah.
And it never happened before. He ultimately passed, and that, to me, is a tragedy, in that it robs the world of fully understanding the man that I got to know. The poet, the philosopher, just a real gentleman whose knowledge base far exceeds almost I wouldn't say a modern day Renaissance man, but certainly one well broadly educated, and was an expert in the fields that he chose to involve himself with.
Yeah. And it's a shame almost that, unlike, because I was just trying to think of sort of pioneers or sort of first timers in the industry in terms of their recognition now. Once like zombie films had their resurgence, George Romero was on documentaries and on DVD extras, and, his films were re-released and so on. So we kind of got to see a lot of that. Most of the other horror filmmakers that we all love from the 70s and 80s have done special editions or commentaries or extras and things like that. And it's sort of one of the sad things. I mean, again, like you say, there isn't the book being made, but also there isn't sort of or there aren't those sort of documentaries or special features or extras or things like that maybe Herschell would have got round to sort of retroactively doing, that would have, I think, shone a light on his work to a modern, 20 to 40-something horror audience who might be aware of one or two of his films but aren't aware of everything that he kind of pioneered. And I think that's almost a shame that in the 90s and the early 2000s, although Something Weird was putting out his films, there wasn't a lot of sort of Herschell content in terms of the man himself. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I again, that is really regrettable is that he won't be able to do commentaries for the deluxe edition Blu-ray.
Right, exactly.
Which I'm putting together right now, the special features part. And you mentioned the fall scene, and I'm putting together how we did that.
Nice.
And it's exactly what you would think it is. Dave Traynor, our effects guru, who, if you're not familiar with Mr. Traynor's work, he has worked on Blade 2, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. He did effects on Hell on Wheels for AMC, and currently does effects Fargo.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, and he was nominated. His team was nominated. The effects team was nominated for an Emmy last year for their effects work. So
fantastic.
A very talented individual. He's standing up on the roof with Ashley Godick, who was on makeup as well, and they're getting the dummy prepared. Meanwhile, I'm on the ground with a great big. The only liver I could find was a cow's liver, and they're huge. So I'm sitting there with an X-Acto knife on a table set up by the craft area, dissecting and cutting apart this liver. And I'm showing certain cast members and stuff. You see that what this ventricle is here in the liver, and you know. So anyway, I have to put it into a garbage bag, haul it up to the roof. We start stuffing the body, and Dave and I stood at the edge, and we had to kind of figure out where it's going to fall precisely, because we had 3 cameras set up, and if we missed, we had 1 body. So it would have been kind of tragic. So anyway, we dropped the body. Everything worked just fine. And we've got all 3 camera angles on the, behind the scenes features and that sort of thing. But yeah, and I think Sonia DeLeo, who plays Julie Cook in the film, probably got the biggest kick out of it, because she said she'd never seen anything quite like it. So, yeah, it just happened to hit perfectly. The funny thing is, if you listen to the cameramen that are standing by every camera, each one of them, as soon as it smashes on the ground, you hear either, oh, shit, or fuck. It was really quite something.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is in the film, and it's, that segment in particular, well, they're all segments, but that segment in particular kind of gets very kind of gruesome and dark, and you're not quite sure what you're watching to begin with in that segment, because it's not readily apparent what's happening right until the end. It's a good sort of Tales of the Unexpected, or a creep show kind of story, and it's that poor actress ends up being killed multiple times, but I feel like that body drop one really kind of opens the eyes and makes you sit back in the seat and go, oh, okay, this is what we're in for, So it was a tremendous effect, and there's lots to. I'd be very interested to kind of just discuss exactly kind of where the ideas for that second part came from. I sort of like the first part, the first segment. Like I said in the intro, it's got a lot of Herschell's satire and comedy in it, and things that people will recognize, coupled with sort of the gruesome gore and the stuff fans are looking for. But the second one kind of is gruesome, but also psychological. So where did the idea come from that? And sort of is there a dark bower of James Saito that we should all know about?
Well, no, it really, where does creativity come from? I had seen, I had gone to see a film that Slash, Guns N' Roses had produced. Raven Banner Pictures will sometimes show a film one evening only across North America. So I thought, okay, well, I've got nothing to do. I'll go and check this out. And they had a little short film in front of it, and it was frankly not very good. And I went home and I thought, somebody's got to be able to do better than that. And as I'm laying in bed, the idea just sort of sprang into my head. And then I started to picture gags, and I thought, what's something I've never seen that I've always wanted to see? well, what if somebody was to actually fall from a tall height and you get their, point of view all the way down? And I was thinking back, have I ever seen that anywhere? No. And so that went in. And, by the end of the evening, I had pretty much all of the gore gags in mind. I had a structure. And I tried to sleep, but I said, oh, to heck with this. I pulled up my laptop, pulled up Final Draft, and started typing. And it was written for a particular actress in mind.
Yeah.
So in the morning, I phoned her, and I said, look, this is the idea. Do you like it? Yes. And I hammered out the rest of that script the next day.
So, I mean, that brings up a good point, because obviously the cast in this, or the several casts in this, are the other component. Very often you sit down to watch indie horror films as well, sir, because you've done some reviewing yourself, and you watch indie horror films, and you watch films with a lesser than Hollywood budget, let's just say. And, one of the things that sticks out to people is either the effects or the acting. And I think two of the strengths of this movie are the effects and the acting. There isn't there doesn't seem to be like a false player amongst any of them. They all sort of roll up their sleeves and happily splash around in the crimson without any kind of weakness showing. Very often when people are trying to be over the top, or trying to be maniacal, or trying to be violent, or trying to be aggressive, that can sometimes come across as sort of a bit hammy or a bit cheesy. And in this, I feel like they all brought their A game. So how did compiling this cast come about? What was the process there?
Well, there's basically a couple approaches that an independent filmmaker can take, and you'll see this a lot, where you'll go grab somebody from the 80s, stick them in a small cameo role, and hope that somehow their fan base will buy it because they're in it. And sometimes this works. But let's say we have actor A, blank, blank, blank. And he was in several films in the early 80s. Now doesn't do much, sits around the convention circuit. And he does the odd film here and there, minor roles. Now, there's a two-way sword here. You can either go, okay, yeah, the fans can say, I'm going to pick up this film because so-and-so's in it and has a small part. Or they're going to say, oh, it's just another shitty blank, blank, blank film. So, there's that you have to deal with. And plus, when you start talking to the agents of a lot of these 80s people, they want an exorbitant amount. So why would I pay somebody $10,000 when I can get somebody who can do the part just as well for a quarter of the price? As a responsible producer, I'm responsible to my investors, so I want to get the best actor that I possibly can for the job. Take, for example, Stuart Bentley as Gordo in Segment 4. Now, he's a classically trained actor. He's been in films, short films. He does a lot of theater work. He directs theater. He came out and auditioned, and he was perfect. And I've always said that there are two people that are really going to stand out in this film and get a little recognition is Stu Bentley and Sonia DeLeo from Segment 2. But I could have spent a lot of money to bring in 80s actors or whatever. I would rather cast relative unknowns and give them a shot.
And
that's my philosophy.
And I agree. And I think in a weird way we're seeing a revival of that. We're seeing a lot more, not necessarily unknowns, but sort of people who are known more in their area and in their underground indie movie scene. They're known there, but they're not known en masse necessarily. But we're seeing more and more of those films being very successful and very embraced by the community, because I feel like some of the ones, like you say, the straight-to-video ones with that 80s actor in it, you know, people are seeing through that and getting pretty sick of it. And secondly, the sort of the big budget horror stuff we're getting from Hollywood is no good anymore. You know what I mean? We get it. The ghost has slammed the door and moved the bed slightly. All right, we've seen that 500 times. Nobody needs to see
another. And a jump scare thrown in for good measure.
Right, exactly, where a cat jumps on a windowsill when they're washing up. We've seen it. So I feel like, you know, we're seeing more and more films without stars, without names in them, you know, being successful and doing the rounds, and the people who weren't names before becoming, like I say, names in their area. I mean, I know you're aware, but like the rise of someone like Ellie Church, for example, and indie actors like that who are having great success, you know, doing it on their own terms and doing it in films that you can only get at conventions or you can only get online, and they become these cult items that are sought after by the community. And I think that's fantastic. And you know, when you've got Herschell's name on it, that's your big name in a way. And then everyone else, as I said, I think does a really great job from start to finish. Even little roles like the two girls who are talking about Twitter and doing the pictures of the gory scenes in the first one, where Herschell is kind of making some sly jokes at the inane nature of social media. Even those two, which could have been easily, like I said, a sort of overdone nod, wink, wink kind of performance, they actually came across as very realistic. I mean, yes, what they're doing is stupid and silly, but then in order for that to play as a joke, they need to be realistic. You know what I mean? They need to be kind of twitty little girls and play it as sort of twitty little girls, and they do, and it was really, really good, I thought. And I love in fact, I love all sort of the comedy shticks in that first part. And like you say, the two actors in part two are incredible, nice and intense and diverse and different, and they have a lot to do in a short space of time, lots of emotions to go through in a short space of time, lots of violence to go through in a short space of time. So, you know, and especially, like you say, the actress's name, I'm sorry, what was her name again, sir?
Sonia DeLeo.
Sonia DeLeo, okay.
And
yes.
Her fiance in the segment is played by Donovan Shermanera out of Vancouver. Is a great actor.
Yeah, I was just looking it up on IMDb, but I'm not sure that... Oh, there they are. Okay, yeah. But yeah, Sonia especially, you know, working with effects and makeup as she does can sometimes be a challenge, especially if people haven't done it before. And I think she took to it like a duck to water. So, yeah, no, terrific all round.
The After Movie Diner with John Cross will return right after this.
Hello, this is for...
Can't we say hello at the same time?
Fuck's sake. Hello! This is an advertisement for Master Debaters.
Oh, can we say Master Debaters together as well? Yeah?
Hello! I am Michael.
I'm Sean. I'm Toffer.
And we are the Master Debaters.
We are the Master Debaters. That's what we want to do.
We're all saying it.
Yeah.
Hello! I'm Michael.
I'm Sean. I'm Toffer. And
we are the
Damn it, Sean!
Debaters.
I thought we were just doing...
Hello! I'm Michael.
I'm Sean. I'm Toffer.
We are...
The Master Debaters. You can find us on Twitter @_Master Debaters, SoundCloud, Podbean, and iTunes. Just do yourself a favour and jump aboard this podcast train. Choo choo, motherfucker!
You're listening to us. And the bass.
What's up, up, guys? This is Epic Film Guy Nick here, and I just want to take a few moments to tell you about an excellent podcast that I personally listen to called Ice and the Face. All right, now if you're a fan of dystopian and even nihilistic comedy, this is the show for you. Rick and Sarah take the most ridiculous news items in the world every single week, and they just tear these stories down, all while having a great laugh. They're usually joined by guests who jump right in on the fun, and it's just a great time. They just launched a Patreon over at patreon.com/iceintheface, so you can also support them. But if you're not listening to this show, what you need to do is go to their website at iceintheface.com, or jump over on your favorite podcasting app and subscribe to Ice in the Face. I promise you'll listen for 2 minutes and you will be hooked, just like I am. So go ahead and give it a listen, and back to your regularly scheduled program.
We interrupt this episode of the After Movie Diner to let you know that after a shootout, a foot chase, a bake-off, and an exchange of bodily fluids via a tuba, Jeff Lynne's magical cello has been returned to the caravan where it's lived these many years. Jeff, too moved for actual words, was seen by paparazzi cuddling and stroking the cello as they settled down for a much-needed rest. The mayor has asked that the surveillance saucer will stay in place throughout the night as he's misplaced his mistress's car keys. Normal service on the roads of Birmingham has resumed, but beware that the candlelight sing-along to raise awareness for Lynne's cello, being hosted by Bonnie Raitt, of course, shows no sign of slowing down, and in fact has just added Lenny Kravitz and a bemused Ringo Starr.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
The cast in the third part, which is the family, I thought the husband in that was very charming. I thought that was very well written as well. He came across as very charming and very funny and very likable and a good husband and all the rest of it. Written kind of refreshingly believable and humorous and human, I thought.
Yes, that was kind of what drew me to it. It was there was a bit of a difference from the other segments, where it's just more. If it's more family oriented and you get to see interaction with the family, then the horror becomes even more.
Horrific.
If there's a sense of foreboding and danger,
Yeah.
it adds to the story, and. Surprisingly, the test audiences really enjoyed that particular segment. And if you, it was fun to shoot. Sarah Joy Good, when she went through her 4 hours of night hag makeup. We were standing around the kitchen where we were filming. And she comes walking up beside me, and she's cracking jokes and stuff, and it was just freaky. It's when you're standing face to face, it's quite something. The makeup crew did a really exceptional job on that, and
yeah. She was sort of like a kind of a cave woman almost sort of prehistoric Neanderthalic or whatever you want to say. I don't know whether I'm using the right terms, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, some kind of demon who eats hair. Yeah. I said to Justin Sane, who wrote it, I said, well, that's a different take on things.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. And look, as a bearded man, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near anybody who ate hair, because that would just be too grotesque. But no,
maybe we'll save you for the sequel. Of a long, drawn-out sequence where she's...
James, I will, with unabashed ego, relish being in anything that you produce, and if I can crawl up to Calgary and get there, I will happily throw myself on whatever you need me to and do whatever you need me to. I am unabashedly trying to be in as many. I'm trying to use my podcast to be in as many indie films as possible. That's always been my diabolic scheme.
So now it's revealed to the world. Okay.
Well, I don't know.
that's something, that would give us a good opportunity to meet. And I have been trying to promote you to move to Canada.
I would love to if it wasn't so difficult. If you can pull any strings.
Well, one never knows. I won't marry you though, John.
No. That's fine, James. I wouldn't ask you to, and I think Kim would be upset if I did. Yeah. So the third part, the other thing that I loved about the third section, the thing that I loved about the whole movie was just how kind of anarchic it was. There's a whole surreal opener to that third part, where it is some sort of twisted sitcom. Like there's a twisted sitcom about the old couple that die in the house before the family move in. And it's done with this sort of mad sitcom laugh track, which me, with my kind of Python-esque sense of humor, absolutely adored. I'm sure some people are kind of like, wait, what's going on? But I thought that was wonderful. Where did that idea come from, or was that in the script?
It wasn't in the script. When it was first edited together, and Tim Fife, the composer, had sent his music for the piece, it seemed long and drawn out. And then as I began to watch the performances, I thought, okay, what if we encapsulate the opening as an 80s sitcom and add a laugh track? And so we sat down and put it together and went, no, that works better. I mean, it's non sequitur.
Oh yeah, but that's what's wonderful about it.
And years from now, people will say, "Hey, how did that happen?" Well, I don't know. We just sat down and thought, well, it worked.
Yeah.
Again, where does inspiration come from? It just kind of, sometimes you stumble upon something that just fits the scenario. So
well, and it really
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, it really did, because it's this funny kind of old style. Grumpy old husband berating his grumpy old wife, and they're sort of jokingly annoying each other and making comments about each other, and you wouldn't be able to fit in the vent, and all that kind of stuff, and having those kind of which, when you look back at some of those old late 70s, early 80s sitcoms, really that was it. There weren't a lot of jokes. A lot of it was just like, come on, Martha, move your bleeding ass, or whatever. Like, there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on in both English and American sitcoms. There was a lot of that, like, cool, don't get much of you to the pound kind of thing. And then there would be this like fake laugh track. So to be honest, like it made me happy no end. I loved it. That kind of madness, I think, perfectly fits with an anthology film, because I think an anthology film has a difficult task of sort of every 20 minutes or half an hour or so sort of re-energizing the audience for a new thing. And it can be difficult. And I think one of the successes of this film was that none of the segments outstay their welcome. And all of the segments start in a fascinating and interesting way that kind of draws you into the next kind of 20 minutes, half an hour. So you don't mind that kind of what can sometimes be a sort of a bumpy transition in some of these things. So I liked it a lot. I thought that segment with the laugh track, I was sort of like, oh, I wonder if this is going to continue throughout the whole thing. And it just worked for that opening. And yeah, it had, like you say, total non sequitur, but a lot of fun. And another sort of surreal gag that I thought was expertly done is in that fourth segment where they're running through the dark room, only to find out that they're really on two treadmills, which I thought was...
the oddest chase scene in horror film history. Yeah.
And look, like all props to that actress who is wearing really nothing but a sort of string thong pair of underpants and is running very enthusiastically on a treadmill. That really takes some guts and gumption, and high praise to her.
Yeah, Jessie Durant Shayer. Yeah, she's a very nice young woman. Actually, she's a bit of a supermodel.
Is she Canadian supermodel or North American?
Native Calgarian.
Nice.
Yeah, she appears at conventions and stuff. Yeah, very. I think she's settled down now. I think she had a child with her man, and she's kind of settled down a bit. But she was appearing at shows, that kind of thing. Very nice woman. I mean, there are some scenes here, and in retrospect, when I watched it with an audience for the first time the other night, that wasn't a test audience. It surprised me how fast the film went by, and everybody reacted where they should, and that was very encouraging to me.
Yeah, it's sort of Herschell Gordon Lewis's Monty Python's Meaning of Life in a weird way. It kind of races past at a nice speed. There's always something to look at, and it's always going to be eliciting a reaction, whether that reaction is fear, laughter, disbelief, and like I say, a kind of joyously sick feeling sometimes, especially when in that first segment where the bloodied and injured man gets the last indignity of being thrown up on by a small child.
There's a warning to emetophobes out there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
This film contains vomit.
Yes. Well, there isn't much this film doesn't contain. I think it would probably be quicker to list what it doesn't contain.
Well, I mean, and that's what made going to set every day fun.
Oh, I'm sure. So how much of the finished version did Herschell get to kind of oversee or help with or see finally?
Oh, the whole, every section.
Excellent.
Yeah. No, I would receive his notes, and we would talk on the phone once or twice a week about the movie, and then we'd just start talking.
Yeah.
As friends do, and he was almost like a second father to me, offering me advice, and that's what I miss most. To this day, I still want to pick up the phone sometimes and call him.
Yeah.
When I feel I need counsel or something like that, and that harsh realization hits you yet again. That's never going to happen again.
Yeah. And I know that when
a sad thing.
No, it is definitely. I know that when you were both on the show previously, you both talked about a desire for obviously further films together, but also a desire to sort of build up the industry there in Calgary. So the indie film industry, or just the film industry in general in Calgary. Is that something you, as a producer and writer, are going to continue with? You're going to see that through, or will this be your one foray into it?
No, 100% yes. HGB Entertainment Limited is fully committed to increasing awareness of the film industry in Calgary. We just opened a major studio here last year. There's a couple of indie films shooting here right now, pro-indie. One might be Hallmark. And Fargo is still, I think Fargo's wrapping up its third season pretty quick here. Danny Trejo was just in town shooting a film not too long ago. So, it's there, but our film production is nowhere near what Toronto's is at the moment. They've got I don't know how many series, including Star Trek Discovery, a whole bunch of them, and Vancouver.
Yeah.
So Vancouver, we'd like to get on par. We have the proper incentives here. We've got the proper grants. And I would encourage a lot of American filmmakers to come up here right now. Because I have no problem acting as a liaison producer, getting all the grants in place. And
and anything to get out of America.
Yeah. And no, our
no, I'm joking about that.
Our dollar's comparatively weak right now. So you're saving about 30% of your budget just on our dollar alone. Not to mention grants, that sort of thing. So it's very worthwhile for somebody to come up here, and that's why people do. You know, that's why The Revenant was shot here. You know, there's you know, it's a great place. I mean, and really, Alberta can be anywhere.
Right. And also, I mean, like I say, and again, I'm not, you know, I don't want listeners of this episode to be like, oh yeah, you know, you and James are pals, and you know, you're a fan of Herschell Gordon Lewis, so of course you're going to like the film. But I mean, genuinely, sort of watching it, you know, and as I said before, I see a lot of indie films, I see a lot of pro indie films, I see a lot of straight to VOD films and things like that are made with all sorts of different cameras and all sorts of different budgets. And 9 times out of 10, the two things that stick out like a sore thumb are the acting and the camera work, because someone's always waving the fucking camera around, like they have a heart attack about to happen, and then like the special effects and it was genuinely refreshing, because it's always it's actually more nerve-wracking for me. I wanted to like the film because I didn't want to sit here and sort of lie or pretend, or not that I would lie, but, you know, pretend or kind of have an issue with discussing it with you because I didn't like it. Yeah, that would have been more awkward than us sort of singing its praises. And so I wanted to like the film, but what genuinely stuck out to me was the acting. And if people are going to go make films in Calgary, and a lot of these actors, I presume, are local, then, I mean, that's as good a calling card as any, because the number of low-budget films I've seen shot all around the country, and, you know, even the extras are awful. You know, you think to yourself, like, there's some prime talent right there. And I'm, again, not just saying that. I genuinely thought it was some great performances. So, yeah, I mean, all the reasons on earth to go to Calgary and make films. Plus, like I say, it's Canada. It's just generally better.
Did you like the original music, John, in the film?
I did. So I can't honestly say, because in the 2 viewings that I was watching it, I probably didn't watch it for that aspect. So I would probably have to go back and look at it. But there certainly wasn't a point where I was watching it going, oh, that's a horrible music cue. So there certainly wasn't any point in it where I was aware of the music in a bad way. But I can't say by the same token that anything stuck out. I mean, what did stick out was the parody songs, the song over the credits, and the song that the female band sing, obviously, because that had lyrics and was sort of part of the forefront. But in terms of score, sir, hand on heart, I can't honestly say that
No, it was inobtrusive, and Tim Fife has scored a lot of horror films, and he did an excellent job. The reason I was asking, you know, if you want to maybe highlight some of that music, I'll send you out a copy of the gory story Rock and Roll Reprise at the end. Well, it's done by a local group, and they're a local horror band called Forbidden Dimension. And originally, I wanted the end song, the reprise of the song Herschell sings at the beginning. I wanted Kiss. And I reached out to Paul Stanley, and it wouldn't have been financially feasible no matter how I looked at it. So I thought, okay, well, let's try Alice Cooper. And no. So Dave Traynor said to me, why don't you try, give Tom Bagley a call. He's got a horror band. So I spoke with Tom Bagley on the phone, and he says, what are you looking for? I said, well, I want something that sounds kind of like Kiss, kind of like Montrose, kind of like... He says, I think I know what you have in mind. So we went down to this arena. Well, it's not really an arena, but we recorded it live, I'll put it that way.
Okay.
So I walk in, and he goes, this is what I've got. And he played it and blew me away. It was exactly what I was looking for. And they did such a wonderful job. I'm thinking of maybe shooting a music video, because I am going to be releasing the soundtrack to the film, including the songs. And, you know, if you'd like to let your fans of the show have a listen to Forbidden Dimension, you know, I'd be happy to send you off an MP3.
Oh, that would be excellent, sir. That I always like a good end song to the podcast, and that would be perfect. What is now the path for Herschell Gordon Lewis's BloodMania. We're releasing on Amazon, streaming on Friday, and then what? What then happens with the movie?
We're just working on the international markets right now, getting a final say. It may show theatrically in parts of Europe, Asia. I'm assured that you won't be able to take a transcontinental flight without being able to pay-per-view it. We're going big. The only thing I really wanted that I was going to floor-wall the thing myself, was to get into a theater, because I knew how much that meant to Herschell. Even if it was just a limited run, 40 theaters, something like that.
Yeah.
And I know the Herschell remake Blood Feast just expanded to 40 theaters. And I actually reached out to the people who were doing that, because I thought, well, I can stop the Amazon release in a moment if we can put it in 40 theaters right away. And it appears that that's not going to happen. I have until tomorrow to hear from them, but I don't think it will. And I thought, what a good, you're releasing Blood Feast. Why don't you release it theatrically, BloodMania, and get that thirst for Herschell happening again? It would have been in their best interest, but, it's not my decision to make.
And nothing like the Draft House chain or the Landmark chain or any of those in the US, none of those are biting for a sort of Herschell retrospective, including this kind of thing.
Well, I spent a lot of time talking to the studio acquisition departments and basically everywhere. Made some really good friends, good contacts.
Yeah.
And the general feeling is it's too niche. And in a way, I can understand that. You're asking a studio to put out a lot of money and take a risk.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure it would be a risk. And the other reason I don't think that I'll get a good response from these guys is they'd probably want the video rights and streaming rights and Blu-ray rights and everything else as well. So it might not be worth it to them to just go to take the theatrical rights.
Yeah.
But still,
you never know if it does well on Amazon and it starts to sell Blu-rays. I'm sure. One of those chains will do an evening retrospective.
No, what I'm encouraging right now is if you are a European film festival and you'd like to screen the film because it's a good trailer for any theatrical release we give there or VOD, contact me. www.bloodmania.ca, and we'd be, happy to go over there and to whatever country and show the film. Give a little talk afterwards, and we'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a shame that it won't be in the US, but all the better though. It's going to be on Amazon. More people will be able to see it. More people will be able to stream it, and then I presume we're looking at a Blu-ray release either later this year or early next.
Well, once it's exhausted, it's first of all, it's pay-per-view, and then pay-per-download. Then we'll go to DVD.
Okay.
Monarch will, our distributor.
Yeah.
Then I retain the rights to the Blu-ray.
Okay.
So we'll be marketing that through Diabolique directly to begin with, before we stick it everywhere, Amazon, whatever. But we figured, well, we might as well, Herschell would approve. We'll market it ourselves.
Yeah.
And sell it ourselves and eliminate the middleman for the time being. And that's one of the reasons I fought to keep the Blu-ray distribution rights.
Yeah, I don't see why it shouldn't be a huge success. And like I say, I'll keep waving the flag for it. I don't know what that does to numbers because it's not like I'm famous or anything, but I'll certainly keep waving the flag for release. And sharing articles and things like that. And I would encourage anyone who listens to this and watches the film and enjoys it to do the same. These things, just much like podcasting, only succeed on the basis of word of mouth and social media sharing and writing reviews on Amazon and things like that. So write a review when you see it, give it a big 5 stars, and tell all your friends and family about it. Because it's, I mean, you know, it's, yes, it is gory. Yes, there is nudity in it. Yes, it is adult in certain regards, but it's also a good, fun, silly, scary, wonderful time, and I don't think there should be any age limit on that.
Well, that's very true, and rest assured, what ended up happening when Herschell was here, I shot 20 more introductions. So I've already got an idea worked out.
Yeah.
For a television series.
Nice.
An anthology series.
Yeah.
That I'm going to pitch more heavily after the film comes out because I think that'll give me more leverage.
Yeah.
Or we'll do a series of sequels.
Excellent.
Depending, of course, on the popularity of this one.
Of course.
But yes, so I want fans of Herschell to know that they haven't seen the last of him. And at the very end of the film, you do see that. I always wanted to do the James Bond thing at the end, you know.
Yeah.
Herschell Gordon Lewis will return. So, you know, it's something for his fans to look forward to. You know, I'm not done yet.
No, of course not.
You know, so it's you know, the future's wide open, and I guess we'll see what happens here in a couple of days. You know, it's an exciting time. It's a stressful time. I think I said to you the first time that Herschell and I appeared on the diner. I said my biggest concern is that I do not fuck up his legacy, and I'm pretty confident right now that it'll be okay. So, John, thank you again for having me on.
It's been my pleasure,
it's
sir.
Always a pleasure. Oh, it's the bigger pleasure is mine.
Well, why don't you tell everyone where everything can be found? The only thing I would urge listeners to do is if they're watching it on Amazon, click through the Amazon banner on aftermoviediner.com before they do so. That's the only thing I would ask of my listeners. But apart from that, James, take it away with all the places that people can find you, follow you, and find the film and follow the film.
Okay, well, let's see. www.bloodmania, one word, .ca. We're on Facebook at bloodmania/movie. We're on Twitter at bloodmania. And those are the big ones. Where we concentrate, you know, our work, and we are www.diaboliquefilms.com, and of course our parent company is www.diaboliquemagazine.com. And we will be doing, by the way, we have plans to do a special Herschell Gordon Lewis issue of the magazine as well, and maybe John, because you're involved with Diabolique sometimes. Maybe you'd like to write a short article on your thoughts on Mr. Lewis and his career.
Sir, if you tell me what you want me to write, I will write about it and I will send it in, and you can publish it if you like. That'd be perfect.
Oh, well, certainly, and you make sure you push the diner in there as well. We'll make sure there's John Cross is the host of the After Movie Diner. Blah blah blah.
I think I'm still on the website as a contributor, I think it still all links out to my stuff. So I'd be honored to be part of a Herschell retrospective. That would be incredible. But anyway, sir, it is, as I said, it's been a thrill. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, well, thank you, John. I appreciate it so much, and I'll email you that MP3 right away, and we'll simply go from there, and I hope to meet one of these days. We were going to Floorwall a weekend, and I'm trying to remember the name of the theater that we were going to do it in New York.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to do it because, there's so many people in New York that I'd like to get together with, including yourself, that, just meet one-on-one finally. But,
I would love that, James. I really would. Like I say, I have family in Toronto, which I know is about as close to you as New York is, so I know that's not necessarily any closer, but I will definitely be planning to get up there either later this year or earlier next year to see my family up there. So I don't know if that something can happen there. And if not, then let's either plan you to come to New York or me to come to Calgary, and I'll get covered in blood in your next magnum opus.
Excellent. Sounds good to me. And actually what we could do is I could talk to Jimmy Maslin, who owns the rights to Herschell's other films, and maybe have a bit of a Herschell retrospective on a weekend.
That would be great. I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, this is something we can plan on, John. So anyway,
all right, Chief.
Again, you've been a real friend throughout this whole process, and I'm indebted to you.
Well, likewise, sir. Likewise. Thanks for all your support of the diner, and let's speak soon, sir. Definitely.
We shall do so. Thanks, John.
You've been listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, John Cross.
And now to play us out the hard-rocking, throbbing beats of the band called Forbidden Dimension and their song from the film BloodMania, Gory Story Rock.
Mandatory